Hi, I am so glad that you're here. Listen, I'm going to get down to brass tacks because I'm kind of a meat and potatoes girl. And every single one of my clients comes to me and has plates full of obligations and responsibilities. So they really don't have time to waste, but they know they need a solution to these problems that have plagued them for years and sometimes decades. So, what we're going to do is just dig in and figure out if this is the right place for you to be. So, the first thing is this is your place if you feel like you've never fit in anywhere. And I don't mean you don't get along with people. You're probably really great at connecting with other humans, about building bridges where other people can only see raging rivers, but you never fit in your wholeness, right? Also, you probably can accomplish anything you set your mind to. It doesn't matter how small or how giant the goal, you know that if you went at it full force, you could achieve the thing that you meant to achieve. I also know that there are probably some things in your life that are kind of hovering below the surface that you've been trying to solve for a long time but can't. And you're trying to ignore how frustrating and empty that has left you. If these things apply to you and you have a fierce independent streak, meaning that you know that you can rely on you, hard stop, then I can say with near certainty that two more things apply. One, you feel disconnected from the vast majority of society. The way that the world is currently working just doesn't make sense to you. You don't feel like you resonate with the conversations that people are having. You feel like there's too much anger or too much laziness, or there's just these wild extremes that you don't fit into or resonate with at all. I'm also willing to bet that in addition to the disconnect you feel with the entirety of society, that there's also a disconnect within you that's causing this void that you've been trying to fill for a very long time, whether you know it or not. It's this feeling of emptiness within us that causes us to grab at straws. And depending on how long that void has existed in your life, this disconnection has existed in your life, I will tell you, full transparency, it existed for the vast majority of mine. I always have gotten along really well with people, but never felt like I really fit anywhere in my wholeness, right? So if you're one of me, then there's a void inside of you that you haven't been able to fill. You probably feel misunderstood. You probably have friends that resonate with parts of you, but not others. That agree with parts of you, but not others. And nobody in real depth. Does that sound right? You probably feel misunderstood and just different. And I'll tell you that in addition to having plates full of obligations and commitments and responsibilities because they're doers, the people that come into my community and succeed at the breakthrough that they're looking for are also people that have struggled with all kinds of ways to fill this void within them. Some of them have had shopping addiction. Some of them have had alcohol addiction. Some of them have relied on drugs. Some of them have relied on promiscuity, on bouncing around from relationship to relationship, or using sex to try to fill this connection void that they have. or they have fitness addictions, or they have work addictions. There's a great number of things that people reach for to try to fill this emptiness in their souls, this chasm that exists within them. And I want you to know before I say anything else that there is no judgment in this place. Because if this void exists within you, nobody else can possibly know what it's like to live with that and to try to find something to fill it unless they also have one. Hi. This feels like a good place to introduce myself. I'm Beth Jones. I'm a mindset mentor. I've been working in the wellness space for a very long time, and I've distilled all of this information throughout my own journey in figuring out how to fill that void, and everything that I tried and completely failed at, and everything that didn't work for me at all, which is why we're all here in this space. Because here in this class today, I'm going to talk about exactly what you need to solve that void so you can stop grabbing at straws. So you don't have to spend one more day grabbing at a straw that's going to fail you, because I know what that feels like. So I'm glad you're here. The solution to filling that void is actually the 3 C's, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But just to make sure that you're in the right place, I also want to see if a couple of these things resonate with you. And I want you to grab a pen and paper and just jot down the things that make sense. So you always feel rushed for time, that there's never enough time to do everything you want to do. You often neglect yourself. You skip lunches or bathroom breaks. Sometimes because you're so excited about this vision or this plan that you have that you literally just forget. You get swept away in the excitement, and suddenly it's 8 hours later and you like emerge back into the real world, right? So it's still self-neglect. We're still not caring for ourselves properly, but that can be for bad reasons and also for really great reasons. Balance in all things, including balance. You may have a really distorted sense of achievement. Your intellectual brain knows that you can do anything you set your mind to, but you can't actually see the value and the success in the things that you've already accomplished. And so your self-worth has been struggling, right? You don't feel validated, you don't feel full, you don't feel purposeful. Is this making sense? Is this resonating with you? Yeah. It sure did for me. You may struggle with focus, with brain fog, with low energy, with low libido, with fatigue. You may be hyper-focused, so hyper-focused on the end result of things that you can't see the progress that you've made along the continuum. All you can see is that you haven't accomplished the thing you set out to do yet. You may have an immense fear of failure because you already feel like you don't fit in. So you don't want to give the critic that lives in your head more ammunition to tell you that you're not good enough. Because somehow, over the course of time, this inability to feel like you can find a place where you truly fit, where people truly understand you, has begun to mean something about your value and your worth to you. You don't feel as valuable and worthy and deserving as everyone else because you can't find your place. And you feel like because everyone misunderstands you, that something must be wrong. Well, I'm going to open a can of worms here. And I'm going to tell you that there's nothing wrong. You actually have an exceptional gift that very few others have, which is why they don't understand you. And the universe did the world a massive favor and spread us, people like us, out around the world people with an immense capacity to love despite the pain that they've been through, people that see the world in kind of a technicolor. They see it in much more possibility than others do. They see solutions where others only see problems. Everything to people like us is different. And we're all spread out because, frankly, we have some big work to do. And the world needs us. The world needs you. But the world needs the highest and best and fullest version of you, which is why we have to address this void within you that's keeping you from accessing that. I used to think, I spent a great deal of my life thinking that my differences were a bad thing, and I hid them. And it's the same is true with all of my clients, is that what happens is they feel different. They feel like they don't fit in. And so they begin this chameleon routine. And it's not intentional, it's not fake. It simply allows them to fit in for the moment with whomever they're surrounded by at the time. Whether that's, in high school, right? Whether that's the athletes or the cheerleaders or the geeks, and I was all of them, right? There's no negative connotation to any of these. And you probably were too, right? You probably fit in equally with all of these different groups in part, with part of you. But I want you to fit in a place where you can be the whole of you, and that we're speaking to all of your gifts simultaneously. Does that sound fair? Had a client one time that said, many of my clients say that they want to finally access happiness and success. They want to finally feel fulfilled within themselves. And that's exactly the journey that we go on. But I had a client one time that said she wanted to feel whole. And I got goosebumps then, just like I have goosebumps right now, because it was so powerfully true. When we're operating with this void, with this chasm within us that we can't quite put our finger on, all we're trying to do is feel whole. We're searching for the depth of connection, and we can't find it. So then we convince ourselves that we're just meant to be alone. We're just meant to be lone wolves roaming the earth, living on our little island of one, doing whatever it is that we do. And when we have the energy, we'll go blend in and do the chameleon thing. But at some point in our lives, we get to a place where we can't anymore. That feels emptier than living with the void in its entirety. And at some point, we give up hope. And we decide, I decided at one point, that it was my destiny. That my purpose was actually to be alone so that I could pour into people the way they needed to be poured into. So that I had complete freedom over this love superpower that I have. What I didn't realize at the time, and what changed my life, is that there are other people like us. And eventually I built a table. I built a virtual and a physical table for us all to sit at together. And that's why we're here. Because it's at that table that we can access the 3 things that we absolutely need to fill this void. And it's not a romantic partner. It's not more plastic surgery to try to make our physical appearance fit in with the ideal. It's not the next status symbol. It's not a new partner. It's not a new job. It's not a new business. Are you ready to talk about the 3 things that you need? The 3 C's. Connection with people that get it, that can see you and understand what it's like to live with that void and then to overcome it, to fill it up, and what that feels like. Clarity on who you actually are before the world told you you had to like shapeshift all the time to fit in. Because the disconnection from who you actually are is probably the biggest part of that chasm, right? There's 2 pieces to it. It's the disconnection from society and the disconnection from the truest and most innate versions of ourselves, where we can have exactly what we desire and build exactly the life we wish to be living because we're playing to our strengths and our gifts and our brilliance and our capabilities that are innate to us only. And when we get to that place, we're no longer competing with anybody or anything because nobody can you like you. And when you lean into the fullness of that, when you figure out what that is and lean into that, you're unstoppable. Freedom, income, impact. The ability to live completely outside the bounds of judgment and opinions of others. Freedom to travel. Freedom to be who you are. And let the people that resonate with that the most come to you without hiding one part or the other part. It's a massive shift. So I interrupted the 3 C's. Excuse me, sometimes I get excited about this. So the 3 C's, connection, being surrounded with other people that understand you. Clarity on who you are and what you actually want, what you were built to do so that you can go do that. And control. A lot of my clients, before they get to me, unintentionally are micromanaging. They're trying to control every facet of life. The people around them doing things, whether that's their staff or their teams, the details of their diets or their fitness regimes, their structure. They're holding on so tightly to the reins, trying desperately to maintain control over a whole bunch of things that they don't actually have control over. The control I'm talking about is control over the part of your life that you always have 100% control over and decision-making authority on, and that is you. That's what you need to fill the void. Connection, finding people that get it. Clarity about who you actually are underneath all of the layers of what the world told you you needed to be to fit in. And about what you were designed to do and control over you so that you can have the certainty and the self-assuredness and the confidence that you desire, that you should have. Because you are brilliant and extraordinary, and this world needs you. So the question is, are you ready to get off the island of one? Because you don't have to exist there. You don't have to exist in this world where everything's hard and you have to do it all yourself and nobody understands you. when I was in that place on my journey, I would not have called myself lonely. I didn't feel lonely. I felt alone. And those are different things. I wasn't really pining for other people because I'd kind of given up on that. I'd kind of given up on the idea that there were other people that would understand me in my depth. So I just felt alone. I felt like a lone wolf. I felt like my purpose on the planet was to just roam the earth as this person that was perpetually misunderstood. And at that time in my life, I gave it a negative connotation. What I have realized is that there are people like me, there are people like you, there are people like us, and it's so great because they're like soul connections, and that's one of the best parts of working with my private clients is that like every single one of them, they're like instantly like soulmates, right? And not romantically, just that's just the way it works, right? Because they resonate on a deeper level than they've ever experienced in any other relationship. And it will blow your mind. And there are people close to you. There are people in your community. There may be people in your friend circles. You may have found a romantic partner that gets it, or at least gets it on a level that they can support you in the way that you deserve to be supported. But there's more. You were designed for a deeper and bigger purpose, which is why you don't fit in with everybody else. You probably don't think of yourself as a leader. I did not. I kept being put in leadership roles even though I didn't feel real leadery. But people always look to me for answers. And I'm willing to bet that that's you also. I'm also willing to bet that you're the strong one and the one that always gets it all done, no matter how exhausted you are or how strung out you have to get to make it happen. I lived that life, and it doesn't have to be that difficult. You do not have to live with the exhaustion and overwhelm that you're living with right now in order to accomplish the things that you desire to accomplish, in order to embrace your gifts and your brilliance and be who you are meant to be. So the question is this: are you ready to get off the island? Are you ready to access the connection and the clarity and control that you desire? Because like we talked about in the beginning, you can do it on your own. Of course you can. You're a badass. I'm familiar with how that works. But I will tell you, the option is to battle through another decade, probably, of trying to figure it out on your own, or to schedule a call with me, get on the phone, get through this, get all the tools you need and the connection you need and the clarity you need and the control you need in 10 weeks and go live the life you were meant to. Yes, there are a million ways to piecemeal the solutions to this problem, and you've probably experienced a million of them already. Doctors to try to solve these unexplainable health issues, right? Migraines, gut health, libido, all these things the doctors are testing for, but they can't find a medical reason for. Had them. Solve the problem. Not with a doctor's help. Therapists and counselors that you're paying hundreds of dollars at a time, weekly or bi-weekly or whatever, that just turn into venting sessions without having actual solutions and action plans. Plastic surgery, shopping, buying status symbols, vacations, travel. And it all works for a minute, right? We spend a shit ton of money on these partial solutions that fill us up for a minute in the grand scheme of things. Maybe it's 10 minutes, right? And then you realize that that's not the thing that's going to solve the problem, and you kick yourself for having spent the money to do the thing and not solve the problem. Or you find a resource that solves part of the problem, but it doesn't resonate with the rest of you. This is a whole human solution. This is professional struggles, personal struggles, romantic struggles, fitness struggles, health struggles, all of it. Because what I do is the whole human approach. And that's not just the 10% of your brain that is your conscious, goal-setting, gritty, resilient, I can do it brain. It's the other 90% that's keeping you from what you were meant to be. So if you are ready to do life on purpose, ask yourself if now's the time to get off the island. Let's talk about it. Let's get on the phone and let's solve this problem in 10 weeks. You don't have to wait years to get out of this rut. We can start solving it right now. I look forward to talking with you. You deserve the support and the love that you give to everyone around you. See you soon.